Hi, welcome to Spinster actually. My name is Anna Marie. I'm gonna show you my my knitting, my first few finished objects of 2026. And also some things I'm working on, and also one thing that I think I am going to abandon. But more on that later. So I think the first kind of finished object I have is one mitten, because it is what I finished first in the new year. Or did I manage to get it done on the 31st? No, I'm pretty sure it was into January. So it's this, which is a mitten. The designer is finished and I cannot remember her name. I think it's Alina something, but the name of the pattern is the Nagu Trad, and I thought this was an interesting design. Whilst I was knitting it, I was quite like, I didn't enjoy this part so much, and I was like, oh no, is this gonna look really bad? But I do think altogether it does actually come together quite nicely, even if I didn't really like how the decreases or like the colour work, I guess, were done on the sides. I think it just creates this like kind of strange thing here. Also, like, my gauge was off. I mean, basically, I did this. I mean, I do think it looks really lovely like on. So this is actually technically, I'm supposed to wear it this on the side of me, but it doesn't really matter because this design is like the same. But it's supposed to kind of complement this other mitten that I knit by the same designer, like the same pattern, not the same pattern, but the same designer. And this is her Nagu Selbu pattern, which I do think is just like super gorgeous. And I made this well, I think technically I started this maybe January 2022. I made a little bit of progress in that January. Then in January 2023 I think I knit like a bit more, and then in January 2024 I knit the rest of it. Is that correct? And then anyway, it was a long journey. And my idea was that these would be like a pair. You can really tell that the size is very different, but that these would be like a pair in the sense that they use the same yarn, and so they're the same colours, but they are not like equal in terms of the design, although I did have the ribbing be pretty much the same. But yeah, in the end, this came out way smaller. Basically, I don't think that I swatched for this pattern, even if maybe I did swatch for this one, although it was so many years ago, who knows if I did that. But either way, like, it's clearly like bigger slash like the changes I made, because I think I changed the number of stitches that I cast on so that it would be the same as this, but then I'm not really sure, you know, like, because I had started this, I believe that this part was then knit in January 2025, but I actually think I got my friend to knit this ribbing for me, because I don't like knitting ribbing. And also I think maybe this was before I had done my like understanding how I knit, and therefore knitting in a different, like, basically I was knitting the purls wrong for my way of knitting, where like I was then producing twisted stitches, and also it was just a more painful thing for me to do. Purling is still quite like it's not nice for me, my hands, but it's certainly less bad than it was then. I'm not exactly sure whether I knit this one in slightly larger than like needles wise. The yarn is like the rosy, or like the kind of rusty pinky one is by Marina Skua. It's Mendip 4-ply, and the white one is some kind of alpakka-y Viking one, I think is called. It was like given to me as like extra from someone's like leftovers from knitting project. I think if you don't look at those two too close together, they do kind of work, even if they don't work. But at the same time, I do think that that is like a really big size difference, and I am kind of lucky that this fit. I did have to knit like a few extra rows. I think I started this on 3.25 needles, and I should have knit the rib like definitely smaller, like on smaller needles, because it is just quite loose, especially in comparison with the rest. I have blocked this to try and make it longer, well, actually to make it wider, because I would say that that was the main problem I felt with it, where this was just quite tight, which I guess has gotten better, but then I think that it did kind of impact also the length too as it widened. But yeah, the point is I knit this from 3.25 needles at first, I think, and then those needles broke actually, or like one of them, like I'm using really terrible like gifted to me because the person didn't want them anymore, like needles. And they don't tend to last very long. But like yeah, so I used those, and then my friend didn't have 3.25 but did have 3.5 needles, so I used that for the rest of it, which, I mean, to be honest, I should have been knitting 3.5 so that I could have a bit more room, but you really can't tell, I don't think. And I think I definitely do remember that I went up a 0.25 or something whilst I was knitting this. Could have been 3.5 to 3.75 maybe, but I sort of find that hard to believe, but I don't know. So yeah, I kind of feel like I might make another one of these, and also maybe make another one of these, but maybe in different colors, because the idea of them being like a pair, a mismatched pair, like just doesn't, I don't think it works as well as I wanted it to, considering their different sizes. Although I guess I would like to make this one, like if I make another one of these, slightly larger. But I also kind of feel like one of the reasons why I did it like this is because I was like really into the idea of knitting mittens, but then I wasn't like super into the idea of having to knit two mittens having to knit two mittens of the same design, because I felt like maybe I would just like be bored by that, slash really slow, because I'm quite a slow knitter. Or like, I don't know if I'm a slow knitter, but like it takes me a while and like whatever. But I think at this point, especially considering how fast this one knit up, but obviously that would make sense because it is quite a lot smaller than this, but then also I knit this so like in and off kilter. But then also when I did finally kind of commit to picking it up and knitting it, like it didn't take that long. I do kind of feel like it is feasible to make others, and then the way that they could be like fun pairs is if I knit them in different colour coordinations. So yeah, I think I will come back to these. I don't think I'm gonna like start knitting the like other pair for these for a little while at least, and I will be like, I am using them, I'm happy to be using them right now because they do keep my hands warm. And yeah, I just sort of feel like this design is just missing like the extra, it's almost a bit like somebody made this and then cut out the like outline from it and then got this, but like you sort of need the outline. But you know, I mean, like I said, I think it just about works, and hopefully it will also loosen up with just wear. And yeah, when I do make the second one, or like if I make a second one, I will knit it to a slightly different gauge, I think. And yeah, not particularly happy with my thumb, to be honest, but that's all right. I'm like, I think this one definitely looks better, although I will say that this back, I definitely wasn't paying attention to like colour dominance, and you can really tell that from how some parts of it fade and how some parts of it don't. Whereas this, I was paying real close attention to doing it correctly, I'm pretty sure, the whole time. So I do feel like that has really helped me have like sharper colour work. But I am still pretty new to colour work. I don't know that I've done very many projects slash none except for maybe these. So, you know, I'm still kind of at the beginning stages of this, and that's cool. So the other finished object, which I did talk about in my everything I made in 2025 video, although nobody has seen that, so is this, which is the can-do cardigan. I will put pictures of it on the back so you can see. And all of the knitting was done in 2025, but the thing that like made it unfinished was that I was duplicate stitching some words on the back, and I finally did that in the early bits of January, maybe like mid-January or something, and so now it says "Love Butchers, Hate Capitalism" on the back. I do think I might kind of do some more duplicate stitch embroidery on it, really enjoying it. In fact, Lydia Morrow, who made the can-do cardigan pattern, she has released like another cardigan pattern, and I will not be like knitting it. I've learned my lesson from trying to knit things that have a lot of purling, because you knit back and forward instead of in the round, for like the majority of this garment, you know, like the sleeves are knit in the round but everything else is not, and that really doesn't work for me and my poor hands, and my joints in general, or like whatever, fibromyalgia, whatever. But basically I have lost what I was saying. But yeah, so Lydia Morrow has recently released, like, I think the clamber cardigan is what it's called, and it has these gorgeous duplicate stitch pansies on it. And in fact, I was thinking about it, and like I was thinking about how I'd love to do that, and like I just think that they look so gorgeous and like just so beautiful, like sort of vintagey, just like really colourful, really just so gorgeous, like and but maybe I could buy the pattern and then use the pansy chart and do some pansies on this. And I also had an idea about some other stuff. I was thinking also maybe I might do like a little moomin or something, or I don't know, like I'm gonna say this is like a finished object, and then if I have the inspiration to kind of pick it up and do some more duplicate stitch embroidery on it, then I will. I also will say that one of the things I do need to do, I think, because it's like okay, but I am pulling my shirt to be covering the contact with my skin, and it's feeling okay through the skin, through the fabric of my t-shirt, but I do think I need to figure out how to make this less itchy for me. It was knit, where's the cone? Right here. It was knit in this, which is like a British full ply woolly knit cone. British wool, I mean. And yeah, this is all that's left of that. And like I said, I don't think I said this, but I didn't knit any of this. My friend knit it, and then I did the I-cord edge and the duplicate stitch embroidery. So it was also really lovely as a project because it's like we collaborated together on it. And like when I was duplicate stitching, I really felt like this was a product of our collaboration. I also feel like that might be another reason why it'd be nice to do some more duplicate stitch embroidery on it, so that it's like more evenly of a collaboration, whereas like 95% of the garment was knit by my friend, which is lovely and I'm deeply appreciative. But yeah, so this yarn was held double, which is why there's this bit inside of there. I do actually want to weigh this to see how much I have left. Yes, again I lost track. Oh yeah, so I do want to figure out how to make it less itchy. I'm thinking I will like bathe it in conditioner. I've heard that helps. Definitely let me know if you have any like tips about that. I would love to hear. I have eczema, I have quite sensitive skin, so I don't know if like other people would feel that this was like a particularly itchy garment, but I definitely know that I can't have it direct onto my like arms here, like that's too itchy, and like yeah, I don't really want it to be direct onto my body, which I do think kind of impacts how I'll wear it, not necessarily because I would wear it direct onto my skin without like a top or anything, but just the kinds of tops and things that I can then wear underneath it. And yeah, I don't have any cardigans, so I am kind of, you know, excited to try and figure out how to style this, I guess. But I do think that like as a piece it does quite fit with what I wear because it's quite high-waisted, and then I like to wear high-waisted skirts, and that's like a big part of my outfits. So I think that combined that will look good. And I do think like right now with this covering the cuffs, it is not making me itchy, so that's good. And then it's just like if I have it direct, I don't know, maybe it's getting less itchy every time I wear it, but I don't think so. And I haven't been wearing it very much, so yeah, I think that's everything to say about this. I will say the one thing that I'm not like super happy with how it came out is my I-cord edge, which I don't think I did particularly well. I mean, I think it's okay at the front. I think it's where it's like at the back that it gets bad and it's just a bit like rolly, and I have blocked this. I don't have blocking mats, but my friends did recently get some, so I was thinking maybe I would do another block now that it has the duplicate stitch embroidery on the back as well. But I also kind of feel like that's maybe silly. But yeah, I think it's fine. But I do also feel like it's not quite laying how I'd want it to lay, really, I guess. But yeah, so the next thing I want to talk about is this, which is supposed to be a sugar plum blouse, which is this, helpful. So this is a pattern by Sydney crabaugh, or Squidney's Knit, Squid School of like Vintage Knitting, I think is her like whole kind of name. And she has like a Patreon where she uploads patterns, and I don't have consistent access to the Patreon, but I like accessed it once to download some of the patterns, and then I think I probably will one more time, although I don't know. So basically the way that these patterns are created is so yeah, you'll see here it has like letters, and then they mean particular things. So Y equals number of stitches to increase at waist, W number of stitches for either side of front, and then body measurement letters used for this pattern, A, B, G, H, J, M, N. And then alongside of her pattern, she also has, I don't know how much of this I can show, but she has like a body measurement chart, which has those things. So like A is bust circumference, then B is waist, there's like high hip, low hip, upper wrist. Anyway, and so you fill those out, and then like depending on the patterns that she's written and depending on the letters in those patterns, you use those to calculate various things, and for like measurements and stuff. So sort of technically it means that patterns are all size inclusive because they're knit directly to your specifications. However, I guess I feel quite skeptical about that / intrigued. And I did try to look for some fat people who had been knitting these, like her patterns basically, because she makes, you know, she makes like contemporary patterns of like vintage styles and vintage patterns, and I really love like vintage knitwear. I think it's beautiful generally, and so I was just intrigued as to what she's doing, you know. And she also does tend to like offer options for like knitting in the round as opposed to knitting in pieces, which is good for me also. I'm gonna take this off. So I looked for some people who were fat or plus size, who had knit these patterns, and I couldn't really find any. So then I also was kind of like, well, I'm prepared to like have a go at some of them. And yeah, I'm not sure, like the reason why I say that I'm like a bit skeptical about that is because the like level of grading that you need for people's bodies does tend to be different depending on if you're working with thin people versus larger people. And there are some like gradings that like are not scale, or like they need to be scaled appropriately, because so this is like, I really do love the idea of this top. I think it's like a really lovely blouse. I think it will fit really perfectly into my wardrobe. Like it's kind of a crop or like a fairly short top that's just like cute. I want more of those. Also, I think the fact that the like original was knit in a purple color really helped me because I love purple. So, and I have quite a lot of purple in my wardrobe. Is that true? Oh, fairly true. But like, so for this garment, this is the like pattern that is then repeated, and I had to like decrease the number, like the size of this pattern that my calculations gave me, because if I had gone by just the scaling, it was just too big. I think it wouldn't have created the same look as the original version, because it doesn't really take into account that like some parts of your body don't actually increase that much in size, or I don't know, like it's obviously complicated, and that's kind of why I wanted to have a go. And also this does require me to do maths, and I'm not very good at maths, so you know, like there is like a grain of kind of there's room for potentially me making lots of mistakes, and I'm sure I have, but I have also tried to like double check things and see what makes sense. But yeah, and the other reason why I feel like I can't kind of fully 100% say that I think that this kind of pattern designing doesn't work, and I'm sure it also is like about the kinds of things that you're knitting. Like maybe there are some things that do just work basically 100%, and then some things that maybe just don't because of the kinds of like pattern numbering that you have to use, or like the stitch patterns is what I was trying to say there. But yeah, okay, so basically the reason why this is, I think I'm just going to give up on it, is that I just don't know what's happening, but I'm knitting to gauge, but I'm getting different dimensions. Like it's just not fitting, and it's too big. And obviously, I guess, like, as someone who is fat, like, I feel like I have a lot of fear that I'm going to make things that are too small for me. So I feel like when I do encounter things that do have the potential and have been thought about as being good for, like, larger sizes, I often make things that are then too big because I'm so concerned about it being too small. But, so maybe some of that happened here. But I just don't know what's happening. So I knit this swatch, like, a little while ago when I first started this project, which was quite a long time ago, because the way that this project starts, which I will say I'm never doing ever again, is you knit the waistband. You knit like a ribbed waistband that is your waist measurement plus something, and then plus like something else. Plus like 6 more inches so that it has like ties, because then you have this waistband, and then you go around the waistband and you pick up and knit the stitches around there, and then that's what creates the rest of the bodice. Which I mean, it sucked as a construction method. I'm never ever doing anything like that ever again. It's just ridiculous, and for me it takes a long time. Like, I guess if you have like smaller waist circumference, then maybe it won't take you as long, but it's just so like boring. Like, what like just ridiculous. But in a way, that part, like I will never do it again, and it was really boring, but it did kind of help me, because one of the reasons why I did actually finish it is because my capacity to knit and like to cognitively like do patterns was very limited. And so the fact it was just knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one forever and ever kind of helped me, because it did mean I could just pick it up and knit a little bit for a very small amount of time, and it wouldn't be super taxing on my spoons or brain. Yeah, and then so I picked up the number of stitches that should have been correct to my waist measurement. It was like just gigantic. It was so big. And I mean I've been knitting like chunks. I didn't just immediately check, because obviously things change as you knit more and larger swatches. So then I like took away like 10 or so stitches, but it was still really big. Then I took away like a few more, like maybe 5, 10, not sure, but just like a chunk, because honestly I was just like, I don't understand how this can be happening. And I was kind of like, this is the last time I'm doing this, like I'm not going to do it again. And that is this try. So I've lost about like, I don't know, 35 stitches, maybe 40, let's say, stitches, which obviously should be like a major chunk of inches, but it just like, it's still too large. I mean, it's, you know, it's getting closer, sure, but it's still like just, and like I'm just not getting the fit I want. And, you know, part of me thinks that maybe it's the yarn that I chose. Basically I was like given this yarn by a friend who has tried to knit with it for a while, and then like gave up because every project they've made they felt was like kind of cursed. And so I, you know, that was also another reason why I was a bit like hesitant about like this project in general, because I really like this dark color, purple, and the other two colors that I have I like less. I think this one's the best of them all. And you know, but I don't have enough, and the only way to just about maybe have enough is to like supplement each and like, you know, knit in stripes. But then I recently watched a Andrea Gorgon, I think is her name, like video where she talked about designing things, and she talked about making stripes that are like they don't have like a jog for where the purl stitch is. And so having watched that and like learned the trick, which is just that like on the row when you join you just knit every stitch, you don't purl, which is so easy, but it's like, that's so clever. And like I did that in this swatch to see what it would look like in pattern if I change, because I really didn't want to change in pattern if it was going to be like ugly, which I felt like it would have been. And I think that this does look fine, so that was also what made me be like, let's go, let's do it. Even if I would prefer it to be all in one colour. Or maybe like the sleeves could be a different colour, but then the bodice would be all the same, or like the waist could be the same as the sleeves, and then, but you know, so that was why I kept going. But basically, yeah, this is just not really working. It's not gonna, I also just, I don't think the fabric I'm producing, I feel like it's different from my swatch, which I think actually looks really nice. I like how this is stretchy. I just think the vibe is nicer. But then here, I mean, partially it's my fault. Like, I don't think I did some of the pattern details like particularly well, but even so, I just feel like, what is going on here? What is going on, you know? So what I am gonna do, in fact, I'm gonna do it right now, is I'm gonna take this out and I'm gonna unravel it. The thing that I'm not gonna unravel is the really, really long waistband. I have no idea what I will do with it, but I'm not unraveling it because it just was like, it just took so much of my time. And like, maybe I'll use it for another project, or maybe I'll try this project again with different yarn. I think I would like to try it again with different yarn. I feel like maybe, so the yarn that this is Debbie Bliss Prima, 80% bamboo, 20% merino wool. I don't know what's up with this, but it's just, driving me a little crazy. So, yeah, I guess I kind of had decided. I thought I was more on the fence about this, but I just, yeah, it's not good. And then also I feel like it hasn't been very nice to knit itself, like as an experience, like the yarn and maybe the needles I've been using, to be honest. But I do like, I'm a wooden needle person, but in this case it just hasn't been feeling very nice. Obviously also in comparison to how long it took me to knit the waistband, like the amount of knitting I've done has not been taking very long at all, but still kind of annoying, and I have been like trying to do a concerted amount of it so that I could try on and test it out. I don't know. I think you know, I think part of it is the yarn. I think yeah, it's just, you know, I was given this yarn by someone who was like, I really want to get rid of it, and then it was kind of in colors that are like my colors, so then it was like I should try, but then it's a no. I feel like maybe I should try and make some kind of just like loose t-shirt with this yarn. I don't know. Is it just gonna be cursed though? So there we go. Frogging it. The other reason why I've been like kind of frustrated and also trying to like knit this committedly is because I want to have a project that is like fairly smooth sailing, doesn't have loads of really like intricate details, like isn't like a complete lace pattern, for example, like over and over again, but is like knitting, because I don't have a project properly on the go at the moment knitting wise, except from this, but I haven't knit it for a while and I don't know where I am in the pattern, and so before I can start knitting it like again properly, I need to figure that out, and I've just sort of like haven't really wanted to do that, slash sort of not really felt the energy to do that, because like I think I will need to count how many how many stitches are on here, and then try to figure out how many increases I've made to figure out like where I am in the raglan increases. Like, I mean, I do know that that's where I am with it, but basically this is like, I think I've shown it before and I don't think it's like had any increases like in size or anything, but this is a tolsta tee. Different way, this way. A tolsta tee right at the beginning, made out of linen cotton. I think it will be really nice, and I know that like when I start to do this I'm gonna enjoy it again. I just need to like, I just have to like sit down and really figure out where I am, and then, but that's what's really putting me off, and then hopefully it will be my like next fairly easy knitting project that I can just sit and knit for a little while. I'm partially like doing it like this because I feel like in 2025 I kind of lost my capacity to like rest whilst making things, because I was making things that took a lot of energy from me, specifically in terms of sewing. And then it was like, instead of like just sitting and chilling out and maybe watching something and knitting, I didn't really do that very much at all. And it was either I was being like quite active, at least for me, with sewing, or not doing anything at all. And I think I need to find my kind of like relaxing knitting again, even if that means I maybe don't make particularly like complicated things. But also, honestly, what I want for my wardrobe is like nice tops, and I don't think that they need to be like super intricate for me to like them. So yeah, I'm kind of trying to do it on purpose, where I like have at least one knitting project that's just like fairly straightforward, and I'll just like be able to like knit it fairly easily, without much like pain and things like that too. So like I said, I think the final thing I have to talk about is what I am like kind of about to slash sort of have, I guess, if you count a swatch as casting on. Do you? Maybe people don't. But yeah, the last thing I have to talk about is basically my next plan. So I have this swatch which I haven't blocked, but I don't think I'm gonna block it, or maybe I will block it, I don't know. But yeah, this is a swatch to see my gauge, and I made it with Sandnes Garn Perfect in these two colours, and this is going to hopefully be a Marit mitten, which is another selbu mitten, this time by Skeindeer knits. And yeah, I love the colour combination. I mean, partially it's just because I love this colour pink. I think it's a lovely pink. It's going to be quite like a large gauge, especially in comparison. I think I'm just about getting gauge for one of the sizes in the pattern with 4.5 needles, which I feel like is quite large for a mitten, but like that's what it is. And yeah, really excited too. I made a video I think in February of last year where I talked about my selbu mitten knitting plans, because I had been to Norway and I had bought a bunch of Norwegian yarn, and I bought these then, and I bought them for a selbu mitten project. I think at the time I probably was like, I'll knit the marit because I just love the marit like design, and I think it will look especially lovely in pink. And yeah, that's my kind of next cast on, I guess. I'm also kind of hoping that like small knitting projects will also mitten projects, it is quite hard to say mitten and knitting or knit and mitten, but I am kind of hoping that like mitten projects will also be like a nice kind of somewhat kind of challenging, or at least like interesting knitting project, but not super challenging that like I need a lot of energy, you know, because I think sometimes following a colour chart can be difficult, but when there's just two colours, and when the rest of the design is fairly straightforward, I think that quite like helps, and you definitely can just get into like quite good rhythm, like momentum with it. I feel like that's partially why, you know, like once you really get started on these, they do like knit quite fast. The more I'm holding this, the more I'm like, I should just knit another one. I do actually have like some left over of the 2 yarns that I used, but I don't think I have enough to make a whole other mitten, and obviously one of the reasons why I have left over is because it's much smaller than this one. So I'm not really sure what I should do with that. I don't think it's worth, but yeah, anyway, I mean, obviously I'm going to keep it and figure out what I'll do with scraps and things. And to be honest, I'm sure that once I've made a few other mittens, I'll have a bunch of like leftover bits and bobs that maybe don't fit, so then I could also have some fun with that and make some like scrappier mittens, or you know, maybe some non-selbu mittens. Yeah, anyway, mitten central. But yeah, so that's my next plan. Obviously the tolsta tea, hopefully I will at some point sit down and figure out where I am and do the counting and blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm feeling quite good about like my making this year so far, and well, aside from this, but I actually don't feel that bad about it. I think that that's what makes it definitely the right idea, and I think I'll just have to come back to this pattern with like better and different yarn. And maybe this yarn is just vaguely cursed, partially through like not just me, but also considering it was vaguely cursed for my friend as well. Maybe this is just cursed and maybe I have to just donate it all. And hopefully somebody else can find joy in it. I think that's all I have to share whilst I just keep unraveling. Yeah, let me know how your January and February, I guess, depending on when you see this, has gone in terms of crafting so far, and your projects and your plans. And yeah, I will talk to you when I next talk to you.